Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Raghu, and my company is Bay Area Home Care. Right off the bat, when you say Home Care, people interpret it differently. So I've seen people come to me and say, "Do you do lawn mowing?" Or take care of stuff, right?
Do you do lawn mowing? Do you do lawn mowing?
No. So right off the bat, no, it's not that kind of home care. The other kind that some people wonder if we do is home health care. Typically, home health care is for people who require some skilled care that needs to be provided by a nurse or a healthcare professional like a speech therapist or a physical therapist. We don't do that either. So we do only non-medical care at home, wherever that home happens to be. It could be a private residence, it could be a facility where somebody is living and they need additional services on top of what the facility provides. So that's what we provide. So having said that, home care is, the industry is changing a lot, and thanks to a lot of law changes and technology development. So what I wanted to do is to go over, it's sort of like a glossary. There's a lot of different type of home care companies that you might come across, and I just wanted to talk about differences between each type of companies and how we are different from the others. That's my topic. So as far as technology is concerned, right? There's a lot of things happening. Ex-employees of Google have gone out and raised billions of dollars trying to sort of revolutionize home care. It's not up on all the details as to what exactly they're doing and stuff. But then there is this thing called, I call it Uberification. Everybody is trying to model their business after Uber. And so that's coming into the home care industry as well. So at the same time, labor laws have changed quite a bit, and minimum wages are going up, and rules governing overtime and sleep time have changed, and benefits are going up. So there's a lot of details that people need to be familiar with. So all these things are causing a lot of changes, and so these changes have given rise to a number of different types of providers, and so that's what I wanted to go over. So to recap, the labor law changes. Basically, minimum wage today is around $11. Come next year, it's going to go up to $13 in some of the local townships like Mountain View and Sunnyvale and so on. By 2018, they want to move it up to $15, even though the stated goal is 2020. But a lot of cities are trying to accelerate that, and that's causing cost of care to go up. In the last year and a half, a lot of things have changed, and one of the changes was sleep time reduction and the minimum wage requirement for home care providers who were doing live-in care. They were not subject to this minimum wage requirement, and therefore if they got paid a flat amount per day and they were okay with that and they got room and board, that was acceptable. The Department of Labor took away that exemption last year, and now employers are required to pay caregivers for every hour they're on the job and overtime after 8 or 9 hours. So that caused the cost of care to double almost overnight. And this happened about a year ago. And then now we have additional changes as well. And so the industry in general has been trying to figure out how to keep the cost low, because the end customer is the one who is getting the brunt of all of these changes, because the cost of care is ultimately borne by them. So we've been trying to come up with creative ideas of keeping the costs low, partly with time management and partly with technology use. And so that's what is causing all these changes. So on the technology front, I talked about Uber. People are trying to provide home care services on demand, on short notice, using the Uber model. It's tricky to do that because you want your caregivers to be vetted, and you want them to be reliable and trustworthy, and you don't want to let any stranger into your house, even if they're available on short notice. So some of the details have to be worked out. And then technology is also enabling people to keep an eye on loved ones from a distance. There are with these tablets and video conferencing type of tools, you can keep in touch with somebody who is living by themselves. There are tools that can detect falls. They can take vital signs and can upload them onto the cloud, and so the doctors can look at it. There's telemedicine that's happening and so on. So there are a lot of changes happening. That's in some cases we can benefit from those technologies and minimize the need for in-person care, which is the most expensive option, or in some cases defer it or intervene only when needed. So those are the changes that are happening. With all this happening, there's a lot of companies providing the same kind of services. The keywords that you hear are home care, private duty, personal attendants, home health aides, and so on and so forth. They all are offering the same thing, but there's differences. So it's very important to sort of understand who you're doing business with before you get into an agreement or a contract. First kind of service is they're called concierge services. These are like independent consultants who specialize in advising seniors. When you don't know exactly what you need, you can hire a concierge, and they can sit down with you, assess your needs, and say, okay, does it make sense for you to get home care, or do you need to be in a facility, or do you need memory care, or what kind of care do you need, or are there other services that you need, maybe transportation? So they can help you find the best solution. And so usually these consultants are independent, and they have relationship with multiple service providers, and they get paid by the service providers. There are connection services, what I call them connection services. There are websites where you can go and punch in your information, what you're looking for, and they will connect you with the service providers. Here.com is one website where if you need somebody, you can post an ad and tell what you are looking for, and they will connect you with potential candidates. You can interview them and you can hire them directly as a caregiver. Usually people are interested in hiring caregivers directly because it's less expensive than hiring an agency. But there are obligations that come along with hiring caregivers directly. You are considered a household employer, and I understand that the state is going to be, keeping an eye more closely going forward. So you have obligations like paying them Social Security, you have to issue them W-2s or 1099s, and workers' comp and liability insurances, and all that stuff becomes a headache. So for those people who don't want to be bothered with all those details, there are companies that provide services. There are HR consultants like Karen and stuff who can do, but there are also other web-based services where they do background checks and make sure you are in compliance with all these state requirements. You see, then there are what are called domestic referral agencies. They look very much like companies like ourselves. The only difference is they hire their caregivers as independent contractors. So they're kind of middlemen. They basically, sometimes they kind of double dip. They charge the caregivers for connecting them with the clients, and the clients for connecting them with the caregivers, and they don't have a skin in the game because the caregivers are not employees and they have to protect themselves. So finally we come to what I call full service agencies, which we are one of. We are by law required, the state of California requires us to be licensed. Everybody who has an interest in the company and who is managing the company is background checked. The caregivers are also required to be registered with the home care aid registry run by the state, which includes fingerprinting and life scan reports. Then our caregivers have to be our employees, not contractors, so we assume liability. We have to provide them with workers' compensation and so on. So if there is any issues, then you have somebody to go to. Let's see. So there are protections, offered by using a licensed home care agency. This is the result of a Consumer Protection Act that was passed last year to protect seniors and people who are recipients of home care. So those are the different kinds of companies or entities that you will come across when you're shopping for home care. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, I have a question. You talked about the middleman agency that hires contractors.
Right.
But if they're paying the contractors and they're telling them where to go to work and show up, how are they getting away with them being contractors?
It is tricky. There are agencies, they may be taking some risks.
Okay.
Because, I can't speak for them. But there are some companies that do that.
Yeah.
The reason why they might do that is because the referral agencies are not subject to the same licensing requirements and the compliance. And so it's easy money.
The IRS may dispute whether they're employees or not.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, if they're just doing a referral from,
If they're paying the contractors
Right,
and
yeah.
then issuing 1099s at the end,
yeah, no,
I think
that's,
that's disputable.
it's like a temp agency.
There's a lot of industries that do that. Just the taxi cab industry is the same thing. You're being directed by somebody else. So the dispatcher is no different than what happens in a lot of.
No. In the taxi, the client's paying the cab driver, not the referral agency, right?
Not with the credit cards anymore. They're clearing through the companies.
Right. So this whole referral agency thing is a controversial area. The state laws as they are currently written, you can't tell a referral agency from a regular home care agency, but that's the full service agencies are sort of trying to change that. So we don't want to be lumped in with the referral agencies because there's a lot of differences.
Yeah, the only time that you see the difference is if something happens and there's a problem, then
Right.
who do you go to solve it?
Right.
It's not an issue. I have a client.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.